Thursday morning, about 9:30. I've got 4 full days left here. Terminix out in full force today. Can't imagine what it's like to try to deal with pests in a property like this. Look at that gorgeous bird. It's coming up even closer to me. So beautiful. So I just discovered that presets don't save settings on these actual Vizzie modules. Means I need to reconstruct this to turn it back into what I had yesterday. That's annoying, but there's a way to deal with that, which is to figure out the settings that exist, send them in through these individual inlets, and then save that to the preset. I think the other thing that I'm going to do is do some of my own typical Max programming stuff, which is start to create a bunch of send and receive variables, even though I create some of that more for designed interactive systems. Because I think like that in Max all the time, it'll make it a little bit easier for me to organize in the way that I typically use Max. So just to give you a basic idea of how I deal with this, I have here something that's going to track the key presses, and I set a bunch of keys to act as initializers. In this instance, I'm going to take, hold down Shift and go across the top of the keyboard here. So this is tilde, we'll send a bang to the left, then Shift 1, Shift 2, Shift 3, Shift 4, Shift 5, Shift 6, etc. I have these now set to activate different videos, although I don't have new videos loaded in yet, but I do have those now set for ranges of the B samples that I'm sending then to the Groove player. Then for the actual video piece, I will allow these numbers then to route what video ends up going into this video player with all of the variables that I can also set, like this thing right here. I can set all of these variables with active video, select things to get what I need. And then that'll allow me to work on the individual videos however I need to, and then when it's all done, I can export them individually. This is just for my editing purposes, but then if I wanted to say, oh, I want a performer, whenever they play a note or they play loudly enough to activate a particular video, I can implement this built-in system and transfer it to future projects. And that's what I like to do in Max, is to build interactive systems that I can compound and use in future projects. There's an interactive MIDI trigger system and audio trigger system that I've built over 10 years ago now that I still use for projects that I'd elect to do today. It's a little before 1 o'clock. I've just been doing a bunch of organizing and trying to figure out how some of this cropper variables work. It was a bunch of trial and error, actually. I'll do similar things for some of the other modules I need to be able to put variables into to make this do what it needs to do for the video to get it back into a state where I want it. Then I'm going to encapsulate a bunch of this first video into its own subpatcher that then goes down into JIT World, and then start to create some other ones and just have the framework for the different videos set up so that I can then mess with them and figure out exactly how I want to modify them and evolve them over time. I've also kind of thrown out a bunch of chairs into my studio so that if people want to sit, they can sit and listen to my work, I guess. I have no idea what order they're going to be doing the visits in. I know that I've got a 15-minute slot sometime between 1 and 2. I'm going to have to reconceive this a little bit because my plan was to create multiple video modules to then route through like a 7 or 8 patcher, but that doesn't exist. So I think instead what I'm going to do is just have one player that's routing through a network of various effects and just have presets and things for each individual video that I want, and then just load all of the individual videos and do all of the effects all the effects in the way that I want as presets. It's a little after 2 o'clock. I thought that maybe the sweepwire thing was going to not happen because it got to about 1:45, 1:50, and I didn't see anybody. And then all of a sudden, a slew of about 20 to 25 sweepwire students came in through that barn door and started walking towards me. And I was like, oh boy, okay. Only played a portion of Be Kind because I wanted to leave some room for comments and questions. That's done, and I can get back to doing some work. Maybe this is a little old school of me, but I'm not really into the preset things, primarily because you don't see the values that are associated with each preset. So I think I'm going to do the thing that I normally do, which is to create command lists that can throw all the variables in the way that I wanted to. So here's a basic example of what I mean. I have here this receive object that's going to unpack all these things down here, and I can just create a message box, and if I give it stretcher 0, turns the stretcher off, changes no other variables. If I give it stretcher 1 plus a bunch of numbers after it, it sets the variables here to the values that I place within that list. That creates this transparency again, as opposed to creating these presets where all of a sudden all these values are just flashbanging into this. If I really want to remember and control more fine-tunedly all the things that I need to, I just type it into the number boxes, micromanage all of the individual things that I really need to, and that gets me ultimately into a better place of really getting the video or audio or MIDI to do exactly what I want. It's a little after 9 o'clock. I just got back onto the VCCA property after being out. Susanna had some packages that she needed shipped through FedEx and through UPS. We also did a hang, found a pho place, which was actually really good. The broth base was very solid. The vegetables were all really fresh. I got tendon and tripe in my duck biette. It was a great day. This is a great place. 3 more full days, and then back into the real world. It's 9:15 on my last Friday, and it is cold. Hopefully this morning I can do some creative stuff with the setup that I created for the Max patches so that I can fine-tune the kind of output that I'm getting from the video manipulation. It's going to be a lot of messing around with numbers and fine-tuning the build of the patches. And if there's a time to be able to get that sort of dedicated work, it's in these last few days, because you can go down rabbit holes with Max programming, any programming really, in order to fine-tune what you want to be able to do. So taking the time to do that today and over the weekend will be a good closing activity, so that even if I don't finish the bulk of the actual creative exporting, I can at least set myself up in building the tools that will allow me to do what I want with the video as smoothly as possible. This chicken salad is everything I want in life right now. That looks amazing. So last night while I was socializing, I was just doing some background work of taking a bunch of Vizzie modules and plugging them in and seeing what they did, discarding the ones I didn't like, and throwing into the screen some stuff that I did like. I haven't yet decided which of these I'm going to use, if any of them. I want to focus first on the stuff that I've already built. So I've built these patcher modules that separates out dimensions, that is basically stretching, rotating, and cropping, and Fogger, Scrambler, and Sketcher as the primary thing that I'm going to do for some of the black and white. I also threw in a slider and fractalizer into a separate subpatch just because they were left over, because I didn't have any need for them yet. I knew that maybe I wanted to deal with them later. I have also set this up so the various stages, the dimension stage, the fog, scramble, sketch stage, etc., can be turned on or off within the chain. So if I wanted to have this switch do just the dimensions, I just do a 1, and that 1 deals with just the dimensions and nothing else. And of course, since all of this stuff is on, hold on, let me turn this off, let me turn this off, off. But then if I want to then add, that's the video as it is right now, if I want to add the next chain of fog, scramble, and sketch, all I have to do is turn this number and transfer it to 2. So I'm going to make that into a 2. And you can see that when I do that, then it affects this. So that's a good way to make sure that the settings I have just get retained, and that for any new video that comes in, I can then compile all of that into a single message. That's a lot of what I'm going to be doing today, is messing with and figuring out all the different things I want to put together. And hopefully by the end of the day, I'll be able to extract some stuff and then throw some of this into ScreenFlow and create my final video. So I've decided that I want to change the way that I deal with key commands. In some of my previous interactive systems, I have QWERTY commands that are peppered throughout the patch that is all turned off unless you hit spacebar first. And when you hit spacebar, it turns on those QWERTY commands, and then anything that you do after that can activate the QWERTY commands, where you start a rehearsal later, like stop all the noise, etc., etc. So here, instead of having a toggle that turns permanently on or permanently off any of the QWERTY commands, I'm setting this up so that commands are active all the time, but they require an initial key press first. So in this context, I'm using tilde as the key that says, okay, now I want you to trigger something else. And then I can press a different key press to then trigger the something else. So just a further example of the way that I deal with commands. Now I have active video triggers from this receive object, sending out a list of parameters that deal with loading the video file, defining the logarithmic scale, dealing with some playback parameters and some other stuff that's in the effects right now. But if I'm going to do tilde shift 1, now it plays the video and uses all the parameters that I set up for Fogger that was listed in this list here. And then if I do tilde 2 or shift 2, tilde shift 2, it's going to switch the parameters, both the video and then the fogger got turned off, the scrambler got turned on, the sketcher parameters changed to be what I want it to be. And I can set up any amount of list of parameters for all the videos that I want to do, and then use that as a basis to start tweaking the numbers. And when I'm happy with the way that all the numbers are, I can just replace the numbers here, and it will snapshot those in a manual way that I can overall be happy with. So something I forgot about a characteristic of ScreenFlow, there isn't an easy way to do background removal. Like if I try to apply a chroma key, then it doesn't know what sort of chroma key needs to happen, so it doesn't take any background out. If I try to do the automatic background removal aspect of it, then it can do it, but it has this really ugly border on the outside that I can't deal with. This is where the limitations of this particular program comes into play, because this is really supposed to be a capture what's on your computer program, not a full-blown editor, and it can do a lot of really great things and has some really neat effects, but it has some limitations. So I think that this is what's making me come to, is that while I can create this background video using the same techniques I did for Fast-Paced World effectively, that really I need to use this as a basis in the videos that I grab from Max and throw it into DaVinci Resolve. There's already so many other options here. Lighten is pretty good. Soft light is not bad, can make it a little bit more subtle. The problem with soft light is it changes the character of the video when you get into it a little bit. So it's not the most natural, especially if I have it at 100% opacity here. So you can tell the difference between the video before and the video as soon as the B stuff comes in. Discovered something a little annoying and I'll have to find a workaround for. Here is a list of all of the parameters. If you look at the V playback params, I've got figures in here, 0.2, 1, 0.2, that should affect the 0.2, 1, and 0.2. And that changes where the loop scrub stops and starts, but for some reason it wasn't working. So what I discovered is that even though this video file command is read first, if I was going to take that away, and then I'm going to hit that button right there, then it changes the scrub point to where it should be. This is the 0.2 scrub point, and it's also starting there as the loop. But if I put that command back in. And then take this and now hit it. It reverts back to the full. And the reason why is because I think that the video has not completely loaded before the parameters go through. And then after the video has fully loaded, then the parameters reset. So not sure how to address that. I mean, I guess the scrub point hasn't changed, so it's really just in the first instance of playback that becomes a problem. But it's still a problem for if I was going to do this with any kind of live interactive system. I'm editing and compiling this vlog episode a day later, and going through this, there's an easy solution. I must have been tired or too tunnel vision or something, but if I just put a 20 millisecond pipe or a 50 millisecond pipe to the listener or the observer for anything, that's not going to be a perceptible difference, but that could give enough time for the video to load and then the parameters go after. It's a little before 4:30, and there is a few people that are having open studio for the next hour and a half. So I'm going to go visit the open studios and then get ready for dinner. I didn't end up taking pictures of Carol's work because I was the only one there at the time, and it feels a little weird if I'm interacting with somebody as a solo person to then say, hey, I'm just going to take a bunch of pictures of all your stuff. Chris, his stuff is amazing. I've seen it online through Instagram, but seeing up in person and seeing the wide variety of the stuff that he does, it's my kind of stuff too. And then Gina's done a lot of evolution for the stuff that she's done. Her stuff is still really strong. Like her, Blinn, Chris now, like those three are the ones that really resonate with me visually. There it is. Hi, bunny. Go nature. So last night I recorded an end of the night video, and I was trying to use my earbuds to see if I could speak more quietly, but the earbuds could pick up the audio more clearly, and it did not work. So I'm going to try to re-summarize yesterday, the day after. Introduce some new people to So Clover, and they loved it. Have more people that are intending to buy it. Socialization was the biggest crowd that I've seen here at once in a single room after dinner. I had said at the end of last week that I didn't know how much I was really going to be able to forge connections with the new people that had showed up. But as the week went by, I did end up getting to know and getting really interested in some of the new people that are now here. And I shouldn't be surprised because we're all here for the same reason and have a community that can express ourselves and our creative practice in a way that you don't necessarily get from a different kind of mixed crowd. So I know that some of them I'm going to continue to connect with past VCCA and do my best to make sure that I keep connected to this new community of people that I respect, admire, and relate to. The last part of the video that didn't turn out that I remember saying was I was still ready to leave this place, go back to my regular life, but I also now know, because of my time here, how I want to adjust the way I do my creative practice in a way that works the best for me and makes me the most efficient. The time that I spend on my creative practice will be more focused, will go more quickly, and allow me to devote a better balance of time between what I'm trying to create and what I'm trying to do with my life outside of creation. And that's pretty exciting. I'm pretty invigorated about it. Spotlight, lighten. Put that in here. Okay, a little bit earlier.